So for today's, we're going to look into main design or main page design. So we have completed our splash screen. So the splash screen, whenever user run or first run their application, you will always be greeted by a splash screen that provide your branding, your application branding. But once you have that, once you have your splash screen ready, and bring user to either a login page or a main page. So that depend on your application type. Either it is a restrictive application. If it is a restrictive application, you need a login wall, which stop user from accessing the main page, okay, or the home page. So if your application requires a login page or login screen, then you need to bring your application to the login screen. Request or you need to enforce user to log in to provide with the credential, and depend on your complexity of your application. If your application require for a must login or two-factor authentication, which every time user try or every time user access the application, they have to log in. They cannot have their preference stored in the application for security purposes. Then you have to implement that policy. So it depends on policy. So here we try to use everything. We will try to use the later on with the auto login. We try to use with the shared preference to store user preference, and then here we are not going to implement a login wall. Reason being is that login wall for any community-based application or application that require user base, you don't want that. Okay, you never want to have that login wall within your application. That basically will stop user from using your application. Okay, if you implement login wall. All right. So usually, community-based application will allow user to access to their main page, but to certain extent. Okay, to certain extent, they won't provide you with all the features of the application, but they would like for you, or they would like for user to taste or to see, to use the application, and see the benefit of the application to them. Once there seems there's a benefit to them, then they would register, ask them to register if they would like to use the application. Right? So that is what we call as a login wall. So don't introduce login wall yet, unless you are some kind like a Facebook level application or application that already well known in the in the application world. Okay, but other than that, if you are still new, if you are very new to the to the application, to user, so don't use login wall. Avoid that. All right, so for our application here, for the MyPasa application here, so when users successfully open the application with the splash screen, so you have yourself a main page or main screen. So for the main screen, there are usually two type of interface, usually. Okay, so but not limited to, but usually it falls within these two type interface. Either the tablet design, so which is the left side there. So the tablet design, so which means that you have your navigation button at the bottom of the interface, or you have the slider design, which the menu actually came out from the left or from the right. It's up to you. It's up to the developer. Either you can set to the left or you can set to the right. So you have what we call as a hamburger menu up there. So hamburger icon up there. So that icon basically allow for user to click and open up or slide out a menu. Okay, the main menu navigation. Sometimes they also combine both. They allow for slider, slide drawer, and also bottom navigation. So depend on the number of your main menu. If just a small number of menu, you can just opt for a bottom navigation type of navigation menu. Okay, so for the MyPasa, since the MyPasa application contain only 3 menu, so I choose or I use the bottom navigation for the menu. And the example within the books basically focuses on the bottom navigation. But I'm still thinking either to use the slide or drawer navigation menu for this time around, so that I can have both example within the books, so that the book can become both can contain both example. All right. So now our application is it? Oh, haven't yet run. Sorry. So that depends. Okay, so this should come from your UI UX team. Okay, they are basically the one who are going to provide with the decision, not you. Okay, because this will require studies and also tests with their potential user. They don't just come out, okay, today we just want to use tablet navigation, or today we're going to use, for this application, we're going to use it. There are decisions that need to make by the designer team to choose which design basically more appeal to your target customer or to your target user. Okay, so there's a study on this. You have to work on this first. Which design basically more comfortable for user? Because if you look at the bottom navigation, it is much accessible because there's only 3 menu. There's only 3 main menu there. So user, they don't confuse with that. They just click on the either 3. So it will bring them to that particular page. Compared to the slider, which is invisible to the user, they have to click on that hamburger menu first, and then the menu or the drawer slide to the left or to the right. So that basically they are trade-off. But the slider can accommodate more menu. Okay, slider can accommodate more menu. So if you only have 3 menu, you can opt for the bottom navigation. But if you have only like 5 or 7 menus, so you might want to choose for drawer because they can contain more menu. And drawer also can have the avatar profile for the slide menu, because they have more screen real estate there. Okay, they have more screen real estate for the drawer, and they can accommodate more features in that menu. Bottom navigation, not so much. There's only 3. You can put icon, but not that very informative. Okay, so yeah. So for this, I'm going to choose for the slider menu for the sake of more example for the books. All right, so once we choose our menu, our main menu design, and in this time around, I'm going to choose this instead of this. So the example can be a little bit different for the books. So here, the reason is that why we need to use the what we call it, the tab children, is that the UI design will take slightly different approach since we implemented the navigation menu, the tab navigation menu with the tab page. But here I'm going to use a different, you can see there, when we initiate, we need to initiate multiple tabs, classes, tab 1, tab 2, tab 3. And then here also, whenever we initiate our widget class, so we need to initiate, for example, like the first tab. This is the class that handle the first tab. So you need tab page 1, tab page 2, tab page 3 for each of the UI design. And each of the UI design will have to require to initialize each of the tabs. So the more tabs that you need, the more class that you will require for this. And the implementation for the class, it basically contains bottom navigation bar, which then initialize all the bar item at the bottom of the page. Okay, so this is for bottom navigation bar. But I'm going to use the navigation drawer, which is almost similar like this, but it basically contains the drawer class. So for that, I'm going to use example from the Flutter cookbook. So just look around for Flutter drawer. And later on, maybe I'm going to pull this out and make it as a class so that it is much easier for us to refer. But for now, let's start with the main screen. So add a drawer to a screen. So just a very simple code to implement to have a drawer. Let's see if the application is running yet or not. Check on that. Still launching, not yet running. All right, so this is basically how you add drawer to a screen. Very, very simple actually. So as part of the UI, scaffold is basically the one that draw everything. All right. So draw your UI, the white page that you see in your application, that basically handled by scaffold widget. So within a scaffold widget, there's a parameter that you can pass called drawer. All right, so this drawer basically define what you need. Okay, so you can also add the bottom navigation also at the same time for scaffold. But here we have drawer, and that drawer basically allow you to create drawer. Okay, a drawer, just a very simple drawer. You just pass that parameter with the widget required, and then you have yourself a drawer. That's how simple it is. Okay, so Flutter is very simple in terms of having slide navigation. So let's see what are the things required. So as you can see, definitely you need a widget, and there's a widget called drawer. And inside the drawer, you can populate your drawer with items menu that you like to use. And usually for a menu, you can implement list view. So within the list view, you can have your, for example, the drawer header for profile and some other list style for all the items that you like to have in your drawer menu, which is, you can see, very, very simple. All right. So this is an example that they provided through their interactive UI. So you can see this is the hamburger menu up there. And this is the item that generated, okay, which is super simple. All right, so let's see, still there, not yet. Okay, so you can change here, you can see the implementation, which is very simple. So within your scaffold, you can add one parameter called drawer, and the drawer basically will require a drawer widget. And the drawer widget contain a child, which is within the child, if you wanted to have multiple element. List view also can be used. Instead of column, we can use list view. So list view, why we use list view instead of column? Because column, they don't allow for scrollable. Vertical scrolling, you cannot implement vertical scrolling in column. But with list view, you can implement vertical scrolling. You can scroll up and down. So if you have multiple menus inside or if you have too many menus, which is not recommended. So please be aware when you design your main menu, you need to make sure that you don't contain too many menus, because if you have too many menus, people will tend to get confused with your UI. Okay, try not to overcomplicate your menu design. So for example here, it basically contains a list view. So this is a list view, the whole element here. When you click on this hamburger menu, the whole element here is a list view. Okay, this is all list view. The first section of the list view basically contain what we call as a widget called drawer header. So that's why you have this section here. This is a drawer header. So inside a drawer header, you can design whatever that you like. So usually we put a user profile here. you put your avatar, you put simple, let's say, emails or credit value or any important information that you like to have in this drawer here. At the bottom here, this is down here, it's all menu. Okay, so whatever menu you like to have here, you can just put it inside this list style here. Okay, so item 2, item 1, and then the list style contain what we call as an on-tap parameter, which allow you to implement action for that particular menu. Okay, so when user click on item 1, what do you want to do? Click on item 2, what do you want to do? So in this case, it's about navigation. Okay, we want to navigate to the other page. So again, the main page basically we require for main navigation page. This is your home location. So that when user successfully log in or if user is in the main page, they don't get lost. Okay? If you build an application and user lost in your application, they have no idea how to navigate and they have no idea how to get home. Okay? So it means that you are developing a bad UI. Okay, so you need to make sure that whenever you build application, users know where they are. They know that they are in this location. They are in the payment screen. They are in the card screen. If they want to go home, they can just click on one button, they can go home. Okay, they know where they are. But if they are in the UI and then they have no idea how to navigate, how to go back, how to implement navigation, simple navigation means that the UI that you're building, they don't achieve this what we call as simple to use UI. Okay, so we're going to use this once we manage to run the application. Not yet. That is quite long. Should be faster. Okay, so now we need our main screen to implement navigation with this drawer type navigation. So for the drawer type navigation, as per example here, you can see, let me just use the example because you need to be able to understand how to use the Flutter cookbook provided by Flutter. They provide it for free. So usually I've looked for example here and implement that in my application and use that. Okay, so now this is the basic. So it basically requires a drawer. So let's see if we have a drawer in our scaffold or not. So we have an app bar. So we have a body. So you can add more called drawer. There's a parameter there that we require a widget called drawer. Okay, but you can see there's a red here, so which means that that's something that we need to remove. This one is not. Okay, so we are supposed to be able to use drawer, but if you can't, let's see, you can see that the brick. Oh yeah. Just the brick here is very important for you to understand. The brick here means that it is available for you to use. But if you have error, is it this one? Oh, up there, I forgot. I removed that comma. My eye is not that very good already. Yeah, that one. Okay, so now you can see that you can use drawer in your application already. So if you save on this, let's see what happened first. Okay, now you can see this is what we call as hamburger menu. Okay, this is hamburger menu. So if you click on this, so you have your drawer already. It's very simple. Just one line of widgets name, and then you have your drawer already. And it is up to you to design your drawer. So usually the drawer will contain, okay? So you can see there, child, you can set your drawer background color, elevation. So if you want to have elevation for your drawer to make it look 3D, you can change the shape of your drawer, the width of your drawer. So usually your drawer will consume, I believe, half of the screen and more, half, 1/3 of the screen, 2/3 of the screen. Okay, so you can set the width of the screen, but we'll try with the basic one first. Okay, so row will always contain child, and then for a child, you can use from the example here provided a list view. Okay, so a list view. So you can provide list view, and inside list view, you can have children. Okay, so within children, you can have the first item is the drawer header. Okay, so you can have your first item as a drawer header. So the drawer header here, that basically allow you to have your drawer header. Okay, so this is your drawer header, and then this is literal to create mutable object, but that one for later. And then some other item that you can add into the list view is list style. Okay, so you have your list style. So within the list style, you can add also items. Okay, so within your list style, you can add items. Oh, sorry, titles and on tab. Okay, so just take the whole bunch of list style here and then put it inside your list view. Okay, much easier that way. Okay, so you can add as many as you like. So list style 1, list style 2. So here we have 3 navigation, so we just add 3. Item 1, item 2, and also item 3. And then so that you have those items. Okay, so very simple implementation. And you just add as many as you like. So let me try to add as many as I like here. So just to test if you can see scrolling menu. So just as many as I like. Okay, so there you go. You can see the scrolling there, allow you to scroll the items. Okay, so all these items here, you can set as menu. Okay, there you can see, there's a menu there. Okay, and even with what we call as an inkwell effect. This is what we call as an inkwell effect. Okay, when you click on this, inkwell. Okay, so there's an inkwell that basically move outward. Okay, so that's just a part of a material design. Okay, part of material design, and that about it. It's very simple to use. Okay, let me remove back all the items because I just want to stick with 3 items. Okay, so now you have 3 items. So the 3 items here contain from our menu, from the menu that I have here, so only 3 items, but maybe we can add more. So the items that I have in my in the My Pasar application, it contains 3 menu, which is the buyer, the seller, and profile. Since our application allow for user who register with application to become buyer and also to become seller. So that's the idea. Okay, buyer and also seller. So now we have menu for buyer, menu for seller, and menu for user profile. So all we need to do now is just change the item tags. So the first item tags for, let's say, buyer, and the second one for seller, and the third one for profile. Okay, so those are the menu, and up here will contain if you don't want to put drawer header, or you can just put profile. Okay, so those are the basic design, but here we predefine the color. So if you want to use the application themes color, so remove the box decoration color, and set to your application theme. Actually, you can just follow the application themes, but here the box decoration did not follow that. Supposed to follow, how to follow color from, sometimes I forgot about that also. Let me just quickly search Flutter decoration box, color follow themes. By default, it didn't set to any color. So this one, if you want to color them, you need to fix them, but you can follow the application themes color. Box painting color, use theme to share colors and font style. Font copy with flash color, color yellow, theme of data, color themes. Okay, this one, themes of contact. I hope this is the right one. The color themes not secondary. Let's see if we manage to use the application themes, not preset. Let me check. Our main theme is the orange is a primary swatch. Okay, so we need to follow the primary swatch and remove constant. Do we have primary color? All right, so use that one. Let's see if we manage to use color. Yeah, that one. Okay, so it means that whenever we change our primary color from our themes, it will automatically follow. So usually that's basically we implement. You can hard-coded color, but if you hard-coded your color, which is you preset within the application, if you want later on to change your application themes, that can be very difficult because you have to recompile back the application and the application will follow to that hard-coded color. But if you want to implement what we call as the application themes, and you want your application to be able to change to a different theme, so you need to make sure that whatever themes that you are selecting follow your primary theme or your secondary theme, because you can set that. It's basically similar to CSS kind of things, but not that very intuitive compared to CSS in web application development. So if you want to follow the parent color themes scheme, so you can use the theme contacts, and it will always, sometimes certain widget, they follow the parent color, but if they don't, you can always, like buttons, okay, some of the buttons, they follow the primary color, they follow the parent color. But sometimes if they don't, then you can set through the themes of a color scheme and choose the color schemes that you wanted to use, so that it will always follow whatever schemes that we use. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you. So now we have our box decoration ready, and usually if you want to put an avatar inside your drawer header, so you can put that avatar widget, drawer header, avatar. I don't have that in, I think I do have that, but I need to look. User, they call it user account drawer header layout. So there's widget for that, user account drawer header. So maybe we can use this widget. Okay, this one. So I'm looking for this. So the widget basically user account drawer header. So instead of the drawer header, so I'm going to use the user account drawer header. But for user account drawer header, they would they basically use a different parameter. So for this, we can just check what kind of parameter required. So there are account email, account names, columns, and widgets. So we can just give it a try. So let's see, we start with the, let me just remove all this and start with the account names, all the required parameter there. Okay, what else that we can pass? Decoration, box decoration. Okay, so there's so many items that we can use. Icon, columns. So this one is a container inside here. And the container basically contains circle avatar. So I'm going to put that into, where is it? I'm going to take this example here. Yeah, account name contain row. So we just use account name contain row. This row here. So might as well, I'm going to take all the parameter that we have inside here and then implement through the, as part of this. Need to close this one more time. Oh, just remove my main widget there. It's supposed to be only inside. Remove everything. So this one is not a constant. Remove that. And this one is a constant for now. And then we can put like email, test at, put the name myparsa.com. So hard-coded for now. And then this one, constant. And this one also constant. Down here also constant. And instead of putting there, put it here. Oops. The other one is not constant. Why is complaining? Add constant everywhere. Add constant. Yeah, just use it as it is. All right, so we have that. Here's something like this, but they're not properly arranged yet. Okay, so you have yourself a circle avatar, email at the bottom. Inside there, there's columns that you can use. There's a column there that you can use to put user profile information. For example, their names, their other information, phone number, maybe credit information. So you can put it there. The avatar here, you can use image, and later on we can use image, but for now we don't have yet any user image because we don't have user registration. We haven't yet registered user to the application. So that's why we just put the basic one first, but there are also better design out there that you can use. But this is the very simple widget that they implemented called user account drawer header, which is which automatically comes with Flutter. Okay, so instead of using drawer header, you can just use the user account drawer header widget, which comes preloaded with a lot of parameter that you can use. And there are so many things that you can do here. You can use other account pictures, other account picture size, current account picture size. You can increase that also with just return size widget and set with the new size. You can add decoration inside the user account drawer header. On press, so if user press on that user account drawer header, you can bring that to profile information or profile page. So something like that. Okay, so even it came with arrow color, but I'm not quite sure what is arrow color. So arrow color is you need to put colors parameter there, arrow color. So yeah, you can just investigate on that more. Okay, but it came with all these parameter, which is usually can be used for user account. Okay, so user account, set the size, So the container is quite small, 50 by 50. Maybe you can make it into more responsive, but this one hard-coded, which is not recommended. So let's say, let me increase to 100 times 100, double the size. Okay, so for the container here, so much bigger, let's say 200 pig. Width can be small, let's say like set to 200, and then this one set to 150 for profile. Okay, so yeah, you can give it a try. Box circle, the size of the box circle avatar also, you can increase the size. Is there any size? Min radius, max radius, min radius, or the radius here set to, let's say, how about 32? How big is that? That is 32. How about 64 radius for the image size? Doesn't affect, is there any error inside, or I've set everything to, the radius should, the min radius, max radius. The min radius set to 32, but you need to remove constant, and the constant should be down here. I'm not quite sure why the Flutter require constant all the time. Yeah, this error too big actually. Radius equal to null. Okay, so min radius should have max radius, I believe. Okay, so you need to play around. Okay, you need to play around with all the parameter. But this one, it does seems fill assertions to radius equal null. So give it a try, and if you can see that the parameter they introduced cause error, cause problem, but should be able to set that. They should be able to set the radius. Not quite sure. Maybe more investigation required. Why it didn't follow the size that I wanted. Maybe because of the container up here, perhaps. Okay, just play around. Okay, there's a lot of parameters for you that to be able to play around. But here you can see null error. So package field assertion line number 74, radius equal null, min radius equal null, everything equal null. But it is not a required parameter. If it is a required parameter, we'll let you know. But this is a container. I believe this is a container here. If you put color to the container, you should be able to see the container color. So play around. Okay, so color, let's say colors dot set blue just to check the blue, the container color. Nope. It's a fill assertion because of there's some problem with that. Okay, so play around. If you cannot get it to work, you can always go back. Cannot set the color for the container. Maybe it's not the correct way of doing this. Okay, when you put container and then inside that you can have a box decoration. So remove that. Not working also. So I'm going to remove the color for the container. Quite sure why it didn't accept that. Something somewhere within the, you just add something and then it breaks. Okay, so might need to look a better example, because this one I've taken from SO. So yeah, they have this, but it doesn't seem to respond properly. Yeah, you have this, but yeah, if you try to save and reload, seems to work for now. But this is not the design that I'm looking for. The design that I'm looking for, actually, I want my avatar to be here and my profile information, user profile information to be here. And then at the bottoms down here might be some of the information. But for now, we just use this, and then later we determine once we have our data. We don't have our data yet. There's no data. This is just to lay out our basic design. Okay, so this is where we're going to put our profile. Okay, and at the bottom here, this is where our menu is going to be. And when user click on buyer page, we're going to have a buyer screen. When user click on seller screen, seller page, you're going to have a seller screen. And since this is a buyer, and by default, the application or the main screen will fall under buyer screen unless you want to have a home screen here. Okay, so you can add if by design you want to have a home screen here, but you need to define what basically home screen contain. For example, if you want to have like a dashboard for your home screen, but yeah, for now I just want to have this. So which means that the buyer screen here or the buyer menu here is the main screen. Okay, so whenever user log in or user access the application, the first screen that they're going to see is a buyer screen. Okay, and they can see all the items that they can within the screen. But if you haven't yet registered, if the user haven't yet registered, they are unable to, let's say, to buy the product or to get details of the product. They can see the items is there, but since for the application, for any community-based application, you need users. You need to build your user base so that your application can expand. Then you ask user to register with your application. Okay, so you don't have the login wall. You remove the login wall for now. Allow user to look and feel and taste the application first. They can see that, okay, within the application, I can do this, and do this. Like similar like your Mudah application. You can open Mudah without having to log in. You can see items, you can see details. But if you want to post item, you need to log in. Okay, you need to log in and then to be able to better get to have better experience with the application. That's how Mudah create a user base, a very large user base. But the problem with Mudah is that they are basically littered with scammers. Okay, so you need to think of how to mitigate that problem. So as a software developer, that is something that you have to think. So now we have our main screen already, and then the application main screen now. You can see the main screen that handle the buyer. Or if you want to remove or you want to extract and put it everything into another class, also can, should be no problem. Okay, but by default, this is where the page landed, and it will automatically go to the buyer page, and the buyer page is the main page. Okay, right. So I'm going to change the name because here what we have is the main screen. So instead of main screen, so I'm going to use the buyer. So this one also the same. So we the screen here is for buyer. So whenever user enter, they will get this screen first. Okay. So the title here is just for me just to label for now. Okay. So this is buyer. Then later on, we're going to have all the products, all the items that posted by buyer is going to be listed as a card list. Okay, you can use card list. Usually, you don't use table. Never use table in mobile application, unless it's just a small. It contains just small information. Then you can use table. But table not to be used in mobile application, only for web application. But that is also because table is quite small to see the item inside is quite small. And usually in mobile application, we can use card items and put it into list. Okay, either list view or grid view. Okay, so you can use grid view because grid view, list view can only allow you to have one item, one by infinity items. But for grid items or grid view allow you to have multiple row and columns, and that allow you to implement responsive design. Okay, so you have responsive design. So if your application is running on a tablet, your item you can list by, let's say, 4 items per row. If you're running this on a mobile or small phone device, let's say like 400 pixel, 600 pixel width, I believe it's 400 or 600, I forgot. I believe it's 400 pixel width, 480. Okay, so anything smaller, so just display the item 2 by infinity. If anything on a tablet size screen or with a larger width, so you can display 4, 6, 8 item per row. So that is what is called responsive design. So grid view, usually I use grid view. Okay, most of the time I use grid view for displaying data. Okay, so we're going to learn that for buyer page. But now, since we don't have yet any data or any informations, because the item should comes from a seller, it should come from seller, not from buyer. Okay, so for a seller, so we're going to create another page that handle seller. Okay, so we're going to have 3 pages, 3 separate pages that handle each of these. This is our main page. This is our home screen. Seller screen, profile screen, buyer screen. Okay, so seller screen, profile screen. So we're going to create that class and then navigate to the class. All right, so I'm going to create 2 more classes within the view. One for seller screen dot and the other one for the profile screen dot within the views folder. So we have 2 more additional screen. So the screen that I'm interested is in the the buyer screen, seller screen. Sorry, is it seller? Oh, not seller. This is yeah, seller. Seller screen means that I'm as a seller, I want to sell item. Okay, so the application allow 2 roles, one user with 2 roles. Okay, so usually in traditional or in the typical e-shop application, so you have buyer and you have seller. So you have 2 distinctive roles. But here, this is a community-based application. The same user can become buyer, the same user also can become seller. Okay, so that's the idea here. So now we need a second screen. So how do we implement the second screen? So the second screen for seller screen, this is basically just a normal stateful widget. So this one we can define your seller screen and implement your standard material UI. Okay, now you have your seller screen. So if you want to implement stateless and stateful widgets, you can, but just for the sake of simplicity, everything I put into stateful widget. So means that your UI will be rendered every time, the whole UI. But if you want to implement stateless and stateful within, and you want to scrape every amount of memory possible, yeah, you go ahead with that. Means that your UI, you can separate, okay, this is stateless widget screen. This is stateful widget screen. This part is stateless. This part is stateful. You can go up to that complexity. But here, I just want to level everything, put everything into stateful widget. Okay, just to make it easier for us to handle things. Any data updated, the whole UI updated. Okay, even though that is not the efficient way, okay, but it get the job done. So for seller screen, so instead of returning container, we return scaffold. Okay, we return scaffold, and inside scaffold, this is basically what we need is basically just to get everything inside the build screen here. So this is not going to remove all this, make it better. Remove unnecessary constants. Okay, this is not. This is due to that. Okay, the rest is okay. So you can create another class called user account rower header class that just to handle for the account class. But for now, I'm going to dump into the same scaffold. So the whole scaffold here, I'm going to take everything until here, the same stuff, put it into here, because these are all the same stuff. The only difference is that up here. So this one is for seller, and this one also the same for seller. Okay, so now this screen for seller screen. This is for seller screen. Okay, so the same screen. Now we want to navigate. We want to navigate. So if users select on this menu, this seller menu here, what we're going to have is that we're going to open up that the other screen. Okay, so that one can be achieved through navigation. So the navigation you can just take from the navigation here. I just want to make it quick, and then take this. Not later on, we're not going to use push replacement. Okay, we're not going to use push replacement. And we're going to move from seller screen here, the on tab navigation here, and move to the screen. So instead of main screen, we're going to move to the seller screen quickly and import the seller screen class into there. All right, so when user click on seller list style, we'll go to the material page route and then go to the seller screen. So let's see if we can get that to work. So if I select seller screen here, navigation dots, navigation is not working. Oh yeah, sorry. I need to push, not remove. Forgot about that also. Where is it? Supposed to push, not the seller screen, the main screen here. So this one, I push everything, that's why. Yeah, I just want to push, not push replacement, because if you push replacement, you destroy everything. Okay, you remove all the UI. So I just want to push. Okay, so to push, and then I'm going to restart the UI again. Just want to push, not replace. Okay, if you replace everything, so you cannot go back at all. Okay, so from buyer to seller, supposed to pop, or the other way around. Let's keep on doing that. Supposed to pop that. This one seller, this one main screen. Okay, supposed to pop either way. Let's try that one more time. Seller, there you go. Okay, so you want to move to seller screen, and then you work your application from here. So for the seller screen, the task for seller screen later on, this is where if you want to post your item, this is where you want to be. Okay, so you can add item into your own page. Okay, into your own page. So you as a seller, this is where all your items is going to be listed. But if you want to post an item, you need to register an account first. Okay, but we don't have that yet, so we're going to do that. I don't think that we have enough time for that, but let's see how far we can go. So that is how we work. So now we just want to go back and forth. So I'm going to take this navigation and then put it back into the list style up here. So as a buyer, I want to go back to the main screen. So punch back main screen there, and from the seller screen, also the same. I wanted to go back to the main screen. So we just work with this for now, for the simple navigation, not the best navigation yet, but just a very simple navigation should allow us to work with our application. Okay, so if we want to go back to buyer page, I updated that yet. For the seller page should be okay. So in the seller page, this is seller screen. The seller screen, when user click on the, no, this one is buyer, should be buyer screen. Thought about that. This is buyer, should be main screen, should be there. Navigator pop should be down up here. Pop means that you want to close that context. Okay, so that's why you pop that navigation. So this one, go back to seller. So navigation push around, and this is seller screen. All right, so quite simple navigation, moving around here and there. Okay, so go to buyer. So you are in buyer, you want to go back to seller, you are not in seller, you want to go to buyer back, you go back to buyer. So back and forth, back and forth. But this is not yet the best method of doing navigation yet, because when you move around and you didn't close your previous class, that class still there through the back navigation here. You can always go back there, you can see it's still there. Okay, so if you don't want that to happen, you need to play around with the push method that we have here. This is just very simple because we just push. Push means that we just push the stack back, we just push the class into the stack. Okay, but whatever class that we have called before is still there. We haven't yet closed that. We haven't yet destroyed that. Okay, so and it's stick in the memory stack, and that can be sometimes bad for your application performance. You don't want that to happen. But here, just a very simple navigation, just to show you how to navigate between pages. And if I have time, maybe I can use the navigation route that can provide better navigation experience. But that require a different topics on its own for better performance navigation. But for now, I just want to show moving around here and there. And even you can see the UI class creation. So whenever I selected, let's say buyer, you can see it pop up. Okay, you don't want that. Also, you want it to be seamless. Means that it is part of the UI, part of the main screen, but it is not feeling so at the moment because of the simple navigation that I use for now. Okay, this is very simple navigation. Navigator.push allow you to navigate from one page to the other page by using the material page route. So the material page route can further customize to make it better experience. Okay, this is very simple one. And if you look around the push navigator, the push here, it basically contain quite a number of parameters. For example, push and remove until, push name and remove until, restorable push and remove until. So there's a number of parameters available or even you can pop until. Okay, pop until means that you want to remove the previous tag, but you still retain the main class. You can use pop until. Okay, there are some other. Push is the simplest one. Just push this class to the next class. Okay, but there are some other parameters that you can use for the application. Okay, now we settle for push, and the application now can move around easily. Okay, so one class more, we have a profile. So the profile screen up here, also the same. You can implement the stateful widget, and then implement the profile screen widget, and then just implement the import library for the material. And down here, we just take everything that we already have. inside our scaffold, we take all, which is for profile, and then dump it into, instead of, this one is a container, scaffold, and dump it inside here, and import all the required screens. And we added one more navigation to the profile screen. So profile screen, and we take this one for navigation for the other screen, to be able to move to profile screen. And also for the main screen, same, pop first and then went to the profile screen, and label that properly so that for the profile screen, it is easier for us to recognize. So this is for profile, this is for profile, then give it a run, clear console, and try. Okay, so now we are in profile screen. Okay, so whenever you navigate from the buyer, you can always go to the profile screen. You want to go back to seller screen, you want to go back to the buyer screen, should be easier for us now, since we have our simple navigation implemented.